Good morning. Today we are going to discuss regarding secured socket layer and transport layer security. Basically, this particular protocol is designed to provide a security to the application layer. So it sits below application layer. So it is earlier the same protocol was called as SSL, Secured Socket Layer Protocol. Nowadays it is renamed as Transport Layer Security. In 1999 this is renamed as the Transport Layer Security. So this particular protocol basically meant for providing a security to the applications of the type HTTP, FTP and so on. So whenever these protocols they started taking the services of this SSL or TLS, so they are identified as HTTPS. So the S which is suffixed with these protocols will indicate that these higher layer protocols are working on this protocol. Okay, so that means they are served through this protocol. So basically here its job is to make these protocols secure, and again after adding this particular secured layer, now the transport layer, earlier it was serving the application layer, now it is serving the SSL through which it is again serving the application layer. Now basically since it sits above the transport layer, okay, so we are calling it as transport layer security. Basically the data that before comes to the transport layer, it gets secured through this protocol. It has two protocols in it to make those applications secure. One is handshake protocol. The second one is record layer protocol. The first one is handshake protocol. The second one is record layer protocol. So what exactly happens in these two protocols that we need to discuss. So as you know, to make anything secured, what we need is we need a set of keys. Now to verify the integrity, we also need a hashing function. Apart from that, we need a mechanism to exchange the keys. All these things are taken care by this handshake protocol. Basically its job is to make client and server to agree upon some, say, cyber specifications. Once they negotiate cyber specifications with each other, then they are allowed to communicate using those specifications. The actual communication of a data happens in the record layer. Okay, so that happens through this layer where it is using the specifications of this handshake protocol, and using them it communicates with a receiver. So now how exactly the handshake protocol works, that we need to see. Okay, basically handshake protocol works in 4 steps. Okay, so in these 4 steps many messages gets exchanged between sending and a receiver. So basically here my client and a server which first agree with each other on certain specifications, that cyber specifications which will going to be used later for a data transfer. So for that the certain steps that are involved in the handshake protocols that we're going to see. To start with, in the first step of handshake protocol, certain hello messages gets exchanged between client and a server. So it is client hello message and this is server's hello message. So this is what happens in the first step. Client sends hello message, server replies back to a client with a hello message. But this hello message is not a simple hello message like what we have discussed in some other protocols. Basically, it involves certain things to be negotiated, certain information that is used by client and the server to negotiate among themselves to come to a conclusion on certain issues. So what are those issues that we'll see first. First, to start with, clients, like say, if this is a new session, if a client and a server wants to start a new session of communication, in that case, client starts with a session ID equal to 0, which will going to be later will going to be issued some value by the server. So to start a new session, client sends a client ID to the server. So this client ID for the new session is initially it is 0. Moment a server gets a request from a client with client ID is equal to 0, it replies back to the client with actual client ID, which will going to be used for the later in the record layer for communication. So the client ID for a new session will going to be decided by server. Okay, so one of the information that is negotiated in the hello message is client ID. If it is a new client ID will going to be provided by server. In case if the old session, if it wants to resume it again, in that case that old session client ID will be sent to the server by the client. So using that, server will reply back to the client. So this is how the client ID will going to be decided in the first step. After deciding the client ID, then client negotiates the algorithm that is to be used for hashing the, say, for hashing purpose to calculate message digest. So normally in TLS the algorithms used are SHA-1 or MD5. These are the algorithms that are used for hashing purpose. So which one to be used, that will go to be decided in the first step itself, in a handshake, this one. Next, it decides regarding the algorithm to be used for an encryption purpose. So here the algorithms of the type RC4, DES, triple DES or AES. So many of these type algorithms will going to be negotiated between, which one to be used, that will going to be negotiated between server and a client. So it has a many such choices. Out of that one will going to be selected by the both the parties, and that will going to be used for the further communication. So whenever a message is wants to be sent in a confidential manner or secured manner, these algorithms are, one of them is necessary. Okay, so once they decide upon the algorithm, then they go for the key exchange method. Now see, the list of algorithms what I have written over here, all of them are of the type private key or symmetric key algorithms. So if they are a private key or a symmetric key algorithms, there has to be an agreement on a key. So we need some mechanism for exchanging of a keys, which will be used for an encryption purpose. So what mechanism or what technique that is used for exchanging of a keys, that also will going to be negotiated in this step itself. Okay, so apart from this, it also generates two nonces, that is RA and RB, which will be meant for, which will be basically used for authenticating server and a client. RA will going to be generated by client, RB will going to be generated by server. These are the two nonces whose length is 32 bit. These will going to be later going to be used by this client and a server to authenticate themselves. As you know, authentication is also one of the important, say, task. Unless and until server client is not sure about the server, how it will going to communicate. So for that, authentication is needed. To carry out that authentication, it generates the nonces. This is part of the authentication. Okay. So based on this, again, in the later part, it will also generate some specific keys which will be used for authenticating each other. Now, after generating these 32-bit nonces, so altogether there are some set of 5 tasks that it has performed. These 2 hello messages. The first one is decision on client ID, session ID. Second is decision regarding algorithm to be used for integrity check. Third one is the algorithm to be used for encryption. Fourth task is way in which the keys to be exchanged, key exchange mechanism. Then last one is generation of nonce. These 5 tasks that takes place in the first step of this handshake protocol. Fine. So in first step, they are exchanging 2 messages. With the help of these 2 messages, they are carrying out these 5 tasks. In the next step, server sends certificate to the client. So, moment a server sends a certificate to a client, now the job of client is to verify that certificate. So for verification purpose, what client will do is it uses a signature of a CA for verification purpose. So moment it comes to know, moment it is very sure regarding CA certificate, okay, it will come to know that certificate has been generated by the server. Apart from this CA certificate, it also checks the URL, that is URL of the server, whether it is a correct URL or not. But the verification of certificate alone will not going to authenticate the server. Basically, this server's CA signature and URL, they are publicly available. So these available things, these things which are available in a public domain will going to be used by anybody to fool client. So for that reason, it will not going to conclude that this is a server based on only this information. Actual authentication of a server happens in the 4th step. So in the 2nd step, actually server is sending the certificate. By using that certificate, client will get some clarification regarding the server. Okay. Now these are the 2 things which will going to be exchanged. These are the 2 things which will be verified by the client. Apart from that, client also verifies the validation or validity of that certificate, for how much period it is valid. Okay. So these things will going to be taken care by client. Then client will start doing the next task. That is, after receiving this certificate, once it gets a confirmation regarding the server, it sends key will going to be exchanged by client. This is happening in the 3rd step. So this is 1st step, this is 2nd step, and in the 3rd step, actually client key exchange message basically carrying a, say, pre-master secret. Which will going to be used for calculation of the master secret. So pre-master secret, which is of the 48-bit length, a 48-bit number, some random number, which is generated by the client, it sends it to the server. So this pre-master secret is a one which is sent to the server using server's public key. Now see, this too is encrypted now. It is not sending it in a public domain. It is encrypting it using the public key of a server, and it sends this 48-bit number to the server. After sending this 48-bit number, now it's the job of server to calculate, both server and the client to calculate the master secret keys. So how exactly this master secret key is going to be calculated? Say how exactly this master secret will going to be calculated. Okay, so before going for the master secret, first they calculate the master secret. The master secret will going to be calculated using a function f. So the function which is similar to your SHA function or MD5 function, which is used for calculation of the hash function hash. So similar kind of a function is used over here. It takes the input, that is pre-master key, which is of the length 48 bits. Then the nouns which are generated in the first step, that is RA and RB, and few constants which is known to both the parties. All these will going to be the part of a key calculation. So pre-master secret, RA, RB and few constants all together helps us to generate a master key. So this master key later on, see all these things are happening in the third step. So moment the pre-master secret comes over here, this task gets taking place at both the places. So moment that this calculation starts happening, I'll just rub these things, and I need a space to show the next actions. So this is continuation of that. The new actions will go to come below this. Okay. So once a master secret gets calculated, then the job is to go for derived secret. Go for calculation of derived secret. Basically, derived secret will going to generate 6 secrets. Total 6. 6 secrets it will go to generate. So these 6 secrets will be used for different purposes. That I am going to show it to you. Those derived secret, again, it is same, almost the calculation remains same, but the function uses a different input, that is the master secret, then RA, RB and few constants which are known to both the parties, that will going to be used for finding the derived secret. As I said, this derived secret, I will represent it as derived secret I, because the I value is between or it is say in the range of 1 to 6. So that means we are generating a 6 derived secrets which will going to be used for further communication. What exactly these derived secrets? They are meant for exchanging of information. So what are those 6 derived secrets? The first 2 derived secrets are connected with initialization vector. So why 2 initialization vector? The first initialization vector will be from client side to a server side. Okay, first derived secret which will be used as a initialization vector. So while sending a message from client side to a server side, so no secret activity will start without the initialization vector. Already we have seen this thing in a SHA algorithm. We need a support of initialization vector. Yes, no matter, even if in MD5 also we need a support of initialization vector to obtain that hash output. Algorithm needs that initialization vector to perform a hashing activity. Next is it moves, the second initialization vector moves from client side to a server side. Okay, so it is for this side communication. Next is we talk regarding 2 keys, or some, rather than calling it as a keys, I am going to call them as hash secrets. I'm going to call them as hash secrets. I'm going to call them as hash secrets. The 3 and 4 both are hash secrets. As you know that it is to move from server side to a client side. One hash secret, another hash secret is from server side to a client side. Okay, so two hash secrets will going to be generated. Similarly, fifth and sixth, they are secret keys. So these secret keys are meant for encrypting the data. So the first is used from server side to client side, and second one will be from client side to the server side. So these are some set of derived, say, secrets which will be used for communication. Now this happens, say, moment the client key reaches the server. Okay, so once client exchanges the key, so the tree master secret, all these calculations will going to be taken place at both the sides. Once this gets completed, yes, now both client and server are ready to communicate using those secrets. Now they are ready. Okay, so for that, what client will do is, so it sends a cipher specification, rather than calling it a cipher, change cipher specification. Change cipher specification message will going to be sent by the client to the server, saying that now we are ready to work with newer specifications which were calculated in the previous time. Okay, so client sends this message to the server saying that henceforth we are going to use newer specifications which will going to be used by us for a further communication. So after sending this, it sends finish message. Okay, so it says that the task of calculation of a keys or agreeing upon the keys is over. Okay, for this, server 2 replies in the same fashion. So change cipher specification. Yes, and moment it sends this, after some delay, it sends the finished message which completes the task of handshaking. So in all these cases, actual data is not exchanged. So what are needed for the exchange of the data, all those information going to be exchanged between client and a server. Yes. So once this gets over, so now both of them are ready with the keys and other details. Now they are ready for, say, exchanging of data. This exchange of a data takes place through record layer protocol. So in the record layer protocol, basically how exactly this record layer protocol works, that we'll go to see now. First, basically the record layer protocol talks regarding usage of fragments, that comes from the application layer. As you know, our application layer generates the messages. Before handing over it to the, or when it comes to the next layer, the job of the next layer is to divide that into the fragments. And whenever we talk about the fragment needs some identification value. So these fragments will go to be identified with the help of sequence numbers. Yes. So once you are assigning a sequence number to the fragments, then it is possible for us to assemble or recreate the message at a receiving side. So sequence number is must. Yes. So anyway, moment a message gets divided into a smaller fragments, sequence numbers will go to be attached to it. So already we discussed or this particular what way the sequence number is required to be attached to the fragment and all those details we have already discussed in the last in the lower semester. So now our aim is to talk regarding how exactly this fragment will go to be encrypted, or its hash output and say other security issues will be taken care over here. So moment a fragment gets generated, to all the fragments they attach sequence number 0. The original sequence number will going to be removed out of this fragment, a new sequence number that will going to be attached to it, to this fragment, that is 0. But one thing you keep it in mind, these fragments will start with sequence number 0, and later on the sequence numbers will go keeps on incrementing from 0 onwards. Okay, these are the new sequence numbers that are attached to these fragments. But when it comes to a calculation part, when it comes to a security part of this, what exactly record layer do is it calculates the hashed output or message digest of this fragment, using you can call it as message authentication code, MAC, will be calculated using this fragment with original sequence number. Even though these fragments are sent with some different sequence number, but original sequence number which was used for this fragment, which will be used for calculation of MAC. So once a MAC of this fragment gets calculated, then the whole message, that is fragment and this MAC, concatenated together, and they will be encrypted using the algorithm, okay, what it was pre-agreed. Okay, so what is supposed to be the key, that derived secret key that is derived using the derived secret. Okay, so that secret key will going to be used for encrypting this fragment. So now first you are finding its hash, so which is message authentication code, which will be used for checking the integrity of the message. Then this MAC gets attached with the fragment, which will now going to be encrypted using the secret key. So once a message gets encrypted using the secret key, it will going to be transmitted to the receiver. And after doing this, to transmit it, SSL also required to append its header. So all these calculations are done without the SSL header. Okay, once a calculation gets over, once an encryption happens, then SSL header will go to be attached to that encrypted data. Now this will go to be sent from one side to other side. This is how the record layer functions. So moment keys are agreed, what all the keys to be used for different activities, then the task of encryption and integrity checking will go to be done with the help of SSL. So moment this gets generated, that SSL header, the fragment, this is encrypted one, that is including MAC and this, all this part is encrypted, and this header, this will be handed over to the transport layer. Now the job of this transport layer is to carry this. Fine. So you know regarding how exactly transport layer functions. Now transport layer started giving a services to this layer to forward this to a specific destination. As you know that specific protocols that are such of the type TCP or a UDP based on application. So the applications which till now we have discussed, all of them are of the type TCP. So I'll just take it as a TCP itself. Transport layer uses a TCP and sends this whole thing to the receiver. So before doing that, again transport layer does the three-way handshaking with the receiving party. Three-way messages gets exchanged between sending and receiving party. Then the actual messages gets transmitted from sending side to the receiving side. So this is how SSL or TLS functions. I hope it is clear to you all. Thank you.